What's up everyone, and welcome back to more Reddit stories about Karens, crazy people, and all that kind of stuff. So be sure to subscribe for more Reddit content, and as usual, let's get into today's stories. HOA's attempts to tow vehicles off my private property backfired on them. So I purchased my property in a quasi-non-voluntary homeowners association in a forced sale. I cleared the liens which were disclosed prior to my purchase and have been fixing up the property. I'm currently living in an RV I have parked in the front yard. I have it up on concrete blocks. Totally in violation of the HOA, but I'm not a member. The interior of the house is not livable. Pretty bad hoarding situation. And I have a standing order with the trash company to have a 10-yard bin that gets swapped out every Friday. I predict another 2 to 3 months until that service can be canceled. Aside from trash in this hoarder house, there are also bags of clothing that goes to Goodwill, and all the crap I put up on Craigslist and eBay for sale. Plus I have enough shampoo and conditioner to keep my hair silky smooth and smelling of springtime for the next 50 years. The HOA has been harassing me to join. I thought we settled the argument, but screw them. They also attempted to have my RV towed off my front yard. Fortunately, I had already made efforts to prevent it from being towed. Namely, I called the towing company the HOA had a contract with, and my lawyer explained the situation. They also started sending me fines in the mail, and I'm adding them to the harassments file. Not being dumb enough to be sued, the towing company agreed that they wouldn't tow any vehicle from any space that could be defined as 123 Oak Street without my direct authorization, including but not limited to the driveway, garage, front yard, or street in front of 123 Oak Street. We also saw a way for the tow company to profit from the situation. This is my revenge on the HOA. We have a standing deal that they can drive the tow truck to my house whenever they're called. Then they knock on my door and ask if I called the tow. If I say no, they charge the HOA for wasting their time. And if I don't answer, they can still charge the HOA for wasting their time. The towing company hit them for about $500 before they caught on to the deal they made with me. Some good news, I've successfully gotten into the bathroom and cleaned out all the children's clothing and decade-old pizza boxes and bags of onion peels. So after a great deal of elbow grease, I might actually be able to shower in my house soon. Suing my mother-in-law for defamation after I gave birth to my first child. I am currently recovering from having my firstborn, and thought this would let some of my frustrations out about the whole situation. For context, I am a 26-year-old female and my husband is 29. We've been married for 2 years. Honestly, his mother wasn't too bad at the beginning. She wasn't a super nice person, but my husband said she was always like this. She was always neutral when it came to me. Not happy, not sad, not mad. This changed when I got pregnant. It also was when we had to move a few states away. This was not planned. We weren't trying to get pregnant and my job sent me to live in Washington. So we moved there and then I found out I was pregnant. My husband and I were elated, and with my new job and savings I've been building, we decided to keep the baby. We told his family after the second trimester, since I have a heart condition and some other chronic illnesses that made the first trimester difficult for me. It was emotionally and physically tiring, and I was constantly terrified of losing the baby. But we made it, and my doctors felt more confident at that point, so we told our families over FaceTime. My husband's family was ecstatic. This would be their first grandchild. Father-in-law especially was excited. He's the sweetest man. But mother-in-law for the first time shared her own opinion. She didn't like it. She said, "If you knew you were having a baby, why did you move so far away?" She accused me of moving closer to my family so that I would cut off my husband's family. My husband told her that we didn't know about the pregnancy when we moved. It just happened at the same time. It put a bit of a damper on the mood of the FaceTime and we ended it early. Husband and I were both shocked at mother-in-law's behavior, but brushed it off. Again, she never did anything drastic to make me think she hated me or anything. Over the next week, she sent us email after email about houses back in our old state, trying to get us to move back. Husband told her many times we can't move, my job is here, and I have to be in person 4 days a week. We had found a wonderful house, and even though we weren't planning on having any children yet, this house is perfect for us. Mother-in-law then started sending houses/apartments to only my husband. 1 bed, 1 bath. Telling him that he could get one of these and bring, quote, her baby to them while I work. What the actual hell? Husband shut that down super fast, saying his life was here now and he wouldn't be moving back. This behavior went on, but we ignored it, especially when we found out the baby might have my same heart condition. I had to go in to do a fetal echocardiography to check, and the stress started to give me palpitations. I was kept in the hospital for a few days for observation and then sent home. My husband was my rock during this time. Words cannot explain how much this man made me feel safe and cared for. This is probably why he didn't tell me of the continuing behavior of his mother, which I don't blame him for. He also was working more, making sure our move-in was going okay, and also the emotional stress of the whole pregnancy. During this time, mother-in-law started sending baby stuff to our house, all male-gendered, even though she didn't know the gender. Time went on and I got better. My baby will most likely have the same heart condition, but the doctor said that any care or treatment can wait until post-birth. They're not worried about it at this time. Mother-in-law started posting on Facebook how, quote, her baby was in danger because of my poor health and accused me of intentionally trying to ruin the baby's life. I'm not on Facebook and neither is my husband, so we didn't know about this. Well, my due date comes and goes and my baby doesn't want to come out, so I am induced into labor. People say you forget how bad childbirth is, and I don't know when that happens, but I hope it's soon because goddamn it was traumatizing. I won't go into detail, but both my husband and I were relieved when it was over. Because of my stay in the hospital, she knew which location I would be giving birth at. Once she knew I was being induced into labor, she got on a plane and showed up to our house. She called my husband over and over again and he never answered because he was busy becoming a father. That's when she showed up to the hospital at 3 in the morning looking for us. Luckily, she wasn't able to get into our area because we were close to the NICU and there is extra security there. She called my husband again and when he answered, she started yelling at him, telling him that she missed the birth of her baby and that she will never forgive me for this. She was still in the hospital during this call. Husband was exhausted and just told her he'd call her back later. Husband went downstairs to get coffee and saw her. She was demanding to see the baby and when he said no, she freaked out again, claiming I was breaking the family apart. She said I purposefully got pregnant as we moved, so I trapped us in Washington, and basically unloaded all her thoughts and opinions about me throughout our entire relationship. Husband told her to go home and that he'll talk to her later. I had a girl, and both my husband and I love her so much. We got our own supplies and clothes and we donated the stuff mother-in-law bought us. We both stayed in the hospital 2 weeks. In that time, mother-in-law posted on Facebook like it was her job. She found pictures of babies with a different ethnicity and posted them as if it was ours, not saying outright that I cheated on my husband, but letting other people think that. When my husband and I took our baby girl home, that's when everything caught up to us. One of mother-in-law's posts caught a lot of attention, where she was asking for advice on how to claim guardianship of a grandchild if they are being abused by their parent. Lawyers commented links and messaged her. People asked for our address to call CPS. They looked at her profile page and found me and my husband. They found his work, my family. My family's business's Yelp reviews were tanked, and the police did end up coming to our home. I had been home from the hospital for 4 days. I had only had 4 days with my baby. My husband dealt with everything, and my cousin is a counselor for an attorney and is going to help us file a lawsuit against her for defamation. I am so exhausted and overwhelmed with this information. I went ahead and started the process for a restraining order, but my husband talked to a county clerk and he said that since there has not been any physical threat to ourselves or our home, it might not be approved. Also, mother-in-law didn't dox us, technically, because she didn't publicly post our address or full names. People just found that on their own. So in this next story, we've got a somewhat similar situation to the previous post, except things end up blowing up in quite a different way. The time my mom snuck into our house and took our newborn baby. To preface this happened exactly 1 year ago today. We are no contact with my parents and will be for the foreseeable future, unless my mom gets therapy. My wife and I are in therapy, not so much because of issues we have in our marriage, but because both of us have crappy families, and neither of us, until meeting our therapist, had strong spines. Okay, let's go back a year and a few days. My wife is due any second with our first child. My mom up to this point had been patronizing of my wife in the 6 years we were together, 2 years married. I've always shut that down, but I'll admit I should have gone very low contact or even no contact before this. So the plan was to have both sets of parents at the hospital after the baby arrived, and wife and I had time to bond. Her parents accepted that, but my mom did not. She demanded she be at the hospital. We told her no, she had to wait. So the baby was born. Anyway, both sets of parents come, everything's good. Finally, my wife is tired, so I walk my parents out. Hers had gone home. My dad went out to get the car. I waited by the front door with my mom. She turns to me and says that she is worried about the baby. She claims my wife is on drugs, which is a lie. My wife doesn't even drink. That she saw how my wife was around the baby and she fears for his safety. I'm stunned. My dad pulls up and she gets in and leaves. I go back upstairs and my wife sees my face. I really don't want to tell her, but I'm not going to lie to her. We go home the next day. Wife had tearing and therefore needs meds. She refuses pain meds because of her family history, but says she will take Advil. So I go get some things at CVS while my wife and baby are sleeping. The baby is in his cot. I'm in line getting us dinner when my wife calls, hysterical. She woke up and no baby. I run home and we are both a mess at this time. Then my neighbor comes over and asks what's going on. She sees me running like my feet are on fire, so I tell her. She tells me, "Wait, so your parents weren't supposed to take the baby?" Yep, my mom snuck in and just took my baby. I call the sheriff's office. My best friend is a deputy there. As soon as I tell him and his partner what happened, they head to get our baby. Turns out my dad wasn't involved in this, although I'm sure he knew about it. My mom knew at the time where we kept a spare key and let herself in. She was arrested because there wasn't a chance in hell we weren't pressing charges. The baby was returned to us. My mom was sentenced, but because of her standing in the community, she was only given a slap on the wrist. However, the negative attention she got after that spurred her and my dad to move. For a long time, both her and my dad were radio silent. However, my mom has tried to reach out in the last few months. Thankfully, we've learned from this. We have cameras, a security system, and no spare key outside. Our neighbor, who is now a great friend, has our spare. We are 3 months along with our second child. I'm hoping my mom doesn't find out. Hi, do you own the property at... I know we all hate telemarketers, but these "can I buy your house" folks push me to a new level of annoyed. They used to give out a fake company name and say Home Builders Incorporated or something. I ended up Googling it and got in contact with the actual owner of that company. I believe he was out of Minnesota. He told me that there's a company in Egypt that sells sales leads to American companies, slipping by the legality of combing through public records for personal information. He told me to get at the American companies, I'd need to pretend to be interested in selling my house with the Egyptian callers, and wait for the call from the US-based company and confront them. So that's what I did. After giving some vague info that was incorrect to the Egyptian caller, I did eventually get matched and called from someone in northern Ohio. When I explained I knew what he was doing and that it wasn't legal, he eventually hung up on me and blocked me. I called from a few different numbers until he disconnected his line. Small win, but not the story I came to tell. The calls haven't stopped, so trolling is my new favorite thing. I constantly beat them to the punch and ask to buy their house, ask them how Egypt is. I've tried to order pizza, put them on hold to see how long they'd last, or just change the subject completely. My biggest win was when they asked if I have any other properties to sell, and I said in fact I do. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, District of Columbia. A very famous address here in the States. My Egyptian caller wasn't familiar with it and took all my information. Regrettably, I didn't have amazing information, but I did tell him it had a fenced-in yard, tons of extra bedrooms, a big round office, and a top-notch security system. 2 days later, I got a call. Not sure who you are, but well played. I've been laughing for the last half hour. How did you convince them you own the White House? The first gentleman that called got the joke. He congratulated me and we had a laugh and he hung up. An hour later, I got a call from someone who wasn't laughing. I'm trying to figure out why I got a sales lead on the White House. Well, that's because you're buying your illegal sales leads from people in Egypt. Yeah, well, I don't think it's funny. Well, that's tough because I think it's hysterical. Not only did you waste money on a useless sales lead, now I'm wasting your time. He told me to go f myself, but I'm not mad. Anyway, that's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you for watching, I do appreciate it. And as always, if you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Reddit content. So take care, and I'll see you next time.